Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to find our own inspiration to thrive and flourish in all areas of life. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest started his real estate investing career with the purchase of a duplex in 2001. He built a portfolio of real estate rental properties while working a career as a medical sales representative. After growing his portfolio to nearly 300 units, he left his job, and upon leaving his day job, Jason continued to build his real estate holdings and currently owns an impressive 900 rental unions. Let's get to know Jason Perreault. So welcome, Jason. So glad to have you today.
Thanks for having me, Al. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you. Well, let's jump right into this. So let's get to know the real you. Okay. So can you think about a memorable experience from your childhood?
Yeah. One of the things that shaped me early on is my parents didn't have a lot of money. We grew up, middle class, lower middle class, and father was a farmer, mother was a school teacher. Mm-hmm. I wanted to do things. I wanted things, and they didn't have any money. So I started working at a young age, be it mowing lawns, cutting grass, paper routes, you name it. So at an early age, I always found like I was hustling, doing something to earn money, and just traded my time for money. Even before I was allowed to work, like 8, 9, 10 years old, wow, doing those things so I could buy my baseball cards or buy, tapes or records or whatever it was. So that was the one thing I just remembered wanting to work a lot when I was younger.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Erie, Pennsylvania, a small town called Northeast. It's a little grape farming community on the outskirts of Erie.
And so your dad was he a full-time farmer?
Yeah, he was a full-time farmer. We had him sell the farm about 5 years ago, and he works for me full-time now as my CFO. So it's I want to say it's a lot less stress. I mean, he still works like he was on the farm, 20 hours a day, but he enjoys it.
Well, great, good, well, wonderful. Well, that's neat that you could bring your dad into the business like that. Yeah. Well, can you tell us about what was a formative experience that really that shaped your life and has brought you actually to be the man that you are today? Sure.
I think, one of the things that really stuck with me, there's two things. So when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, I didn't really know. I just know I wanted to make money, and for no real good reason. At the time, it was just because I didn't have it, and that mindset has evolved a lot since then. So now it's so we can give back and take care of others and things like that. But I was interning in college at a financial planning company, and so I really started learning about money. And I was helping the financial planners arrange their meetings with their customers, and so I go through the files and update information and things like that. And there was 2 separate families that I had booked appointments for one of the planners, and one, there was like a dual income, doctor, lawyer, their net worth. Well, their income was, in the hundreds of thousands, maybe 600,000-700,000 a year. And, they had a net worth of a few hundred thousand. And then there was this other couple who had a combined income of like 70 or 80,000. It was like a school teacher and a secretary or something like that, but they had a net worth of 5 million. I was blown away. I was like 19, 20, 21 years old. Yeah. And, oh my gosh, how the heck is this happening? And the financial planners said, well, hey, look, people that own real estate have money. And I didn't know anything about it, but that started the wheels turning, and I started my journey of self-education. And so kind of fast forward through, early years of working in medical sales, building our portfolio. But I worked for a medical company, and one of my managers at the time had just really, really had me drink the Kool-Aid on personal and self-development. So working on myself, journaling, all these things. And I said, well, where do I start? And he's like, well, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, like I thought these names were all foreign to me at the time. And, he acted like I, like fell off the turnip truck or something, like, cause I didn't know who these people were. But the minute I discovered that, and I was, I bought a bunch of, the audio CDs of Jim Rohn's programs, and I listened to that when I was on the road, and I was hooked. And so then I started working on myself and really trying to change my mindset and change bad habits and work on this, work on building my strengths and things like that. So that was really like a big turning point for my, not just my business, but me as a person, as a husband, as a father, as a friend, all of that kind of stuff.
So did you say this was a supervisor or was it?
He was a sales manager of mine. So
a sales manager.
Yeah.
That's an unusual supervisor to actually be concerned about their employees' personal growth. Yeah. So yeah, that was a fortunate acquaintance, wasn't it?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell us about that journey. When you started actually realizing that to really make it in this world, you really did have to start with yourself and your own mindset. So tell us about that process, how that all evolved from that first introduction there.
Yeah, I mean, it was challenging. I felt like inside, I had this need to succeed or a need to achieve, but I was very, very ridden with anxiety, social anxiety. So I would be, if we were at a sales meeting or we'd have they called it like a district, so we'd have 8, 10, 12 sales representatives, and we would be as simple as sitting around a board table, like a boardroom table for a meeting. And if it was my turn to speak, I would be like nervous as all get out. I would be nervous for the day leading up to it for no good reason. But then I found, and it was very, very hard for me. It took me years and years to get over a fear of public speaking. I've been on stages, on panels at conferences, speaking in front of hundreds of people, which is still nerve-wracking at this point. But, if I step it down and say, hey, I have to get in front of 50 or 100 people, it's no big deal to me anymore. And that journey, going from just being nervous, to the point of not being able to eat if I had to speak in front of even 5 people, it was, but I just dug into the personal development, really worked on myself and tried to understand like patterns and behaviors and the mindset, I guess, just the way I was raised. And so I just dove into every bit of self-discovery that I could, from, I'd read a ton of, financial and business books, but I'd, just try to dig into, a lot of mindset books and just try to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I knew that growth was not going to occur unless I made myself uncomfortable. So having to get up in front of colleagues, having to get up in front of peers and just get comfortable with that and not be comfortable to the point where it becomes second nature and not where I would be riddled with anxiety for days on end, which looking back, it seems so silly. But that's that's people's number one fear, or a lot of, one of the top fears for people is public speaking. And,
right.
And so, but I realized there was not just with public speaking, but other things that may be, a foreign concept. 10, 12 years ago, I didn't know anything about syndicating in the real estate business. And, now we're syndicating deals and bringing in investors and doing, taking down very large complexes and acquisitions that we would have never thought possible, in the past. And so really realized that, to do more, I have to become more and keep working on myself. And that, the more that I work on myself, the results will come. And whatever area that means, it may mean nothing financially or business wise. It might just be, to be be at peace or be a better, be a better husband, father, friend,
to be the person you want to be. So can you, you talked about reading and practicing. Are there any specific techniques, specific practices that you put into place to actually, because you've really come a long ways from being nervous just getting up in front of colleagues to
Mhm.
actually making speeches. So are there some specific things that you can bring to mind that actually, besides the practice, and well, what kind of practices were they?
Yeah. Well, the one thing that it sounded silly early on, and I used to tell this to the same, manager that had turned me on to personal development. Like I would practice in the mirror. If I knew I had a
Mhm.
presentation, I would, if we were for my day job at the time, if we were traveling, I would be in my hotel room and I'd run over, if we had to practice a sales presentation or whatever the case would be, I would practice it over and over so that even though I would be super nervous, I'd be
Mhm.
able to deliver my content without passing
Without
out,
without falling apart,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And over the years, so I've worked on trying to uh, practice. And now that I am comfortable with being in front of people, I work on some of the semantics and being able to tell a story with more detail rather than, because the nerves will still show through. If you're in front of a group
Mhm.
of people, you may just rush through to get through your content as opposed to slowing down and using words and adjectives and descriptives to tell a story. So now I'm working on trying to be a better storyteller to tell my story or to illustrate a technique or an idea.
Mhm.
So I don't, I haven't done any formal training or studying of that, and that's probably clear. But that's something that I'm trying to work hard at, to
Mhm.
be better at.
So do you still do a lot of rehearsing prior to presentations, or is it becoming more spontaneous?
No, it's becoming more spontaneous. I'm more comfortable with being able to think on the fly, and
Mhm.
I think that also shows a little bit more honesty and vulnerability. Like I'm comfortable with um, having silence or pausing or
Mhm.
being able to give a true answer as opposed to a rehearsed answer.
Right. Well, that's quite a journey, and an impressive journey. And I mean, I don't know. You've mentioned several times. Well, that's seems kind of silly now, but it wasn't silly.
Yeah.
It was some pretty serious and heavy stuff from which you've come from there. And I don't. It's just we all just have different temperaments. I'm a real introvert myself, and it has not been easy for me to get up in front of groups and people either. So I can empathize with the journey that you have been on there. And I've had to do a lot of rehearsing before
Hmm.
making presentations as well. Of course, I'm a teacher, so I'm in front of students almost on a daily basis. But I mean, just to be honest, I have each and every class I go into, I really do experience a little bit of stage fright before going into the classroom. And these are with students that I've been with all semester long.
Interesting.
So it
Yeah.
it never really totally goes away.
Yeah.
Um, well, tell us about, and this may relate to kind of where you were, but Robert Frost wrote that famous poem about two roads that diverge in the woods, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all of the difference.
Hmm.
Besides the one you shared with us, is there another fork in the road that has made all the difference in your life?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of forks, a lot of forks in the road. But um, I think for us, my wife and I, when we were dating and got engaged and kind of mapping out what our life wanted to look like, um, we we were young and impressionable, and like a lot of real estate investors and entrepreneurs, we read Rich Dad Poor Dad and other books like that. But we decided, hey, look, we want to be able to enjoy our life, um, not work for 40 years to be able to enjoy 15 or 20 years of retirement.
Mhm.
And so we took a position of sacrificing early on. So we were both out of college, made great, excellent incomes, and we lived off of one person's income.
Mhm.
So while a lot of our friends were, trading up in their houses and vacations and driving fancier cars, we still lived like we were in college from a budgetary standpoint
Mhm.
for several years. And it was a blessing and a curse because at some point, um, you know, close to that time that I left my day job, which was another fork in the road. But my wife kind of had to shake me and say, we're sacrificing, doing all these things, but at some point we have to live. Mm-hmm. And so, just realizing and having enough confidence in ourself and our business to be able to, rather than, just hoard everything, trying to make it work, that, having trust in an abundance mindset. So, it was kind of I know I kind of poked in a couple different areas there, but the main idea for us was that, trying to create the life of our dreams, be able to travel, take our family, wherever we want, when we want. And I mean, look, we live a pretty straight lifestyle. I mean, kids are in school and, we do all these things, but we feel like we're able to achieve and do things we would have never thought possible. And, a lot of that's just, due to mindset, due to us just kind of having matched up goals and ideas of what we want to do as a couple, as a family, and things like that. And we find that we have a lot of, it's marriage. It's not, it's never easy or perfect, but, we found that we've been able to do and achieve and do the things that we've wanted to do that most couples probably would never get to experience.
Well, yeah, there's a couple of forks in the road, it sounds to me like. I mean, the one you mentioned certainly early on in the marriage was to live conservatively and live off of one paycheck. But the second fork in the road was that point in time when you came to the realization that there's a difference between a mindset of scarcity and a mindset of abundance there.
Yep.
So both major milestones. Well, listeners, if you're just tuning in, my guest today is Jason Perro, and he is an accomplished real estate investor and owns over 300 units to his name here. And Jason has been sharing a very interesting life story with us here today. So, Jason, what is it in your life that brings you the greatest meaning?
I think the greatest meaning for me now is being able to be there for my family. I had a health scare a few years back, and just a sudden diagnosis of a heart condition, and so I was, just charging ahead, trying to, just work and create, in business, and acquire all this property for my family. But, it wasn't really there. And from that point on, my health was improved. I mean, I never had a symptom or anything like that, but I have a pacemaker defibrillator implanted in my chest. And, and that kind of thing will set you sideways a few times, and I didn't want to, and I, you don't believe it. You don't want to accept it, early on that's real, but, really gave me a chance to really take control of every day of my life. And some moments are harder than others, but, really being able to be there. And I feel as though, I'm a much better, not that I was a bad husband or father, but I feel like I'm a much better husband and father and friend, for my friends that now, but I'm also creating and doing more in business than I had before. So it's sort of interesting that, with greater peace and having a well-balanced life, that all these things just, fall into place. I'm not chasing deals. We're not chasing real estate, just having this sort of peace, and it just is a much more fulfilling, and I'm just at a much more fulfilled place in life right now.
Yeah, that's interesting that how those life-threatening situations or really traumatic events in our lives, maybe not necessarily life-threatening, but traumatic events, really change our entire mindset. It's interesting how you've become more intentional as a husband and a father, and at the same time, your business has started flourishing even more and better. That's an interesting phenomenon there. So, just before we close here, what are 3 good things that have just happened to you in the last 24 hours?
All right. So, one of the good things I was really enjoyed myself. I had a experience to be on a panel of real estate experts or investors for a multifamily investing group last night, and so that was a lot of fun. The panel was composed of some different folks that I know from a mastermind group that I'm involved with, and there was about 200 people that tuned in, and that was really satisfying to know that had value to add to people that are various stages of their investing career. Another aspect that really proud of is 2 days in a row I hit a personal best in running. So I was never a big runner. I've tried heck to become a runner for 20 years, and finally was kind of getting some breakthroughs over the last year. And I've made some huge strides even during the middle of this pandemic. And so I'm super proud of that I was able to 2 days in a row, far beyond what I've normally done in terms of speed and distance. So I'm trying to take my health seriously, and move and do things that help me improve and stay healthy every day. And the other thing is in a business side of things. I've got a great team, and they've been able to just really kind of ramp our business forward with me stepping back and just being able to trust in their decision making, so they were able to make some good decisions that were able to speed along a deal that I'm working on. So,
oh, wonderful! Yeah. Well, congratulations on all those three good things. Well, we're coming to the end of our time here, and it feels like we're just getting started here and just scratching the surface on actually who you are, but you truly are a very interesting person. I've got one last question, but before we go into that, my guest today is Jason Perro. And so, Jason, would you share with our listeners how they can get in touch with you?
Sure. If anybody wants to, either book a strategy session or just have a conversation about real estate, happy to connect with anybody in network. I just love making friends in the business. So they can connect with me on Calendly, so calendly.com/Jason Perro. And they can also email me at jasonperro@yahoo.com if they want to get in touch. And happy to take time out to talk to anybody about real estate life and anything in between.
Jason, it's just been a real pleasure. I enjoyed the conversation and would love to get to know you even better. So I hope you can be on our podcast in the not too distant future, and we can continue the conversation here. So thanks a lot, Jason.
Thank you. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I like the different questions because it allows your listeners to see the other side of people, not just the business side.
Well, thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.